Hey guys, just a couple more quick thoughts about this reduction in the loan to value ratio restrictions that I think is really, really important. The number one key demographic, if you like, that's going to have the most advantage out of this, in my opinion, and which is going to impact the market the most is first home buyers. There's a reason for that. I'm about to explain it to you, but firstly, realize too that it's going to massively impact first home buyers, and there's also going to be a roll-on impact from that to property investors as well. I'll explain that at the very end. Let me show you this though. If you've got a first home buyer, and they're looking at buying a property, and I was talking to some friends recently, and they're looking at the sort of $550,000 price point. Ridiculous as it seems, that is actually entry level in a lot of markets these days. So $550,000 property. Last week's rules, that's going to be about $110,000 deposit. And then you're going to go to the bank and get another $440,000 from the bank. Now, in cash flow terms, that's going to cost the purchaser something like $473 per week in repayments. So that was last week's rules. This week, we're in a slightly different world. So this week, that exact same $550,000 property can be purchased with as low as a $27,500 deposit, which then makes your lending with the bank $522,500, which is a massive, massive land shift. That's a big, big change. It's a big difference. Now, the cost of that is still going to be only $561 per week. So you're only going up $88 per week, but there's a massive, massive land shift in the level of deposit paid. So essentially every first home buyer out there scrambling to put a deposit together, thinking they need to get $110,000 together, now only needs to put together $27,500 to buy the exact same property. But there's more. Call this strategy number 2, is that if they look at what they can buy and decide that they'd actually like to spend another $100,000 and buy a slightly more expensive house, that extra $100,000 is only going to cost them around about another $5,000 in deposit. So why would you buy a $550,000 house when you could possibly buy a $650,000 house and only pay another $5,000? Now that extra $100,000 is going to cost you more in cash flow as well. It's going to cost you about another $103 per week. So you're going to go from $563 to $660-ish per week in repayments. But once again, I'm looking at this and going, that $660 is legitimately still below the average rent that's being paid out there. Now, there is still some issues with this. There's still some hoops to be jumped through, and they're still the same. It's income strength, cash flow, meaning how much of your income you get to keep and how much of it goes on McDonald's and takeaways, personal history, whether you're a good buyer or not, and also the biggest one yet, which I think is going to impact this whole thing as much as anything, is that the Reserve Bank has come and said that it's going to be for 12 months. So what this actually means is that these first home buyers who now only have to save 27 grand instead of 110 to get into the house they want, they've only really got 12 months to do it in. And as far as they know, the clock's going to stop at that point and they're going to be out of luck. So they're going to be rushing, they're going to be moving to get it done. So realistically, what's the likely result of this? Got a bit of a list here. First home buyers, in my opinion, I think they're going to jump straight back into the market with a lot of attitude. They're going to go, we're sick of mum and dad's garage. We don't need to borrow mum and dad's equity anymore. We can actually do this on our own. If we're a good, healthy borrower, we can go to a Main Street bank now, get the world's most historically low interest rates New Zealand's seen in living memory, the lowest deposit required that we need to get into a property, and I think the bottom to the middle of the market, I'm talking $400,000 up to sort of $800,000 as a first home buyer market, is going to be very, very robust. I think there's going to be an explosion of first home buyers out there on the marketplace, which is why in the last few days I've put 7 or 8 offers in on properties myself, trying to get in early. And it possibly could mean that there's actually no drop in value in the marketplace. I'm been accused of being overly optimistic in the past, but I think we're going to go into a recession. But this drop in loan to value ratio hasn't really it hasn't, I don't think it's really occurred to the marketplace yet how big a quantum shift that actually is. And I think it's going to make a big difference. I think that the first home buyers will dive in really fast. Why is that good to us investors or people that already own assets? Because the only thing better than buying a new investment property that's of great value to you is having your old investment properties not go down in value. Appreciation in your portfolio is incredibly important. The only downside to this that I can possibly see at this stage is to developers. Developers who built apartments or townhouses or new build housing stock have had that 5% deposit market totally to themselves since 2013. And now these first home buyers who only have a 5% deposit not only have the choice of brand new properties, but any property in the marketplace that they purchase, they can now have that loan to value ratio at 85, 90, 95%. And I think that could be a softening factor for developers who are building new build stock. Other than that, I think that this move has been underrepresented in the marketplace. I don't think the papers and the websites have got their head around yet how big a move or a bigger quantum shift this is. We've already seen this week banks come in and say that they're going to do 80% for investors and 90% for first home buyers. And I think that's going to trickle down from these main street banks down to second tier lenders very quickly. It's going to be a very interesting market in only the next few weeks. Hope that was of use to you and hope you got some value out of that. If so, bang a like on it, even better, share it. Hey, thanks very much. Good to see you.